Alright, everybody, in this particular video, what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square. It's going to be a little bit harder, but this is going to be where it gets a little bit more fun. Okay, so we're going to take this equation. Go ahead and write this equation down. Go ahead and write it down with you. It says rewrite the equation by completing the square. It's not going to be that difficult. So we're going to do x squared minus 14x plus 33 equals 0. Okay? So we're going to rewrite this equation. So the very first thing that I'd like you to do to rewrite the equation is I would like you to take 33 away from both sides. So that's the very first step. So when you do that, here's what you're going to be left with. You're going to be left with x squared minus 14x. And for our purposes, while you're taking notes and learning how to do this, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put a little plus sign and then create just a little empty box right here. Alright, we're going to complete the square. We're going to call this our C value. Okay? And that's going to equal negative 33. And I'm going to put a plus sign. And then I'm going to put another empty box right here. And I'm going to label that C as well. Because whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do the exact same thing to the other side of the equation, just to balance the equation, which I know you probably heard many, many times. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the V value. And the V value, everybody, our V value is equal to negative 14. That's our V value. Now, something we talked about in the previous video, in order to find the C value, it will always be the V value divided by 2 in closed parentheses squared, which basically means you take half of this guy and you square it. That's what you do. So what are we going to do? We're going to take negative 14. We're going to take half of him, which becomes negative 7, and then we are going to square him and get 49. And that's the number I'm going to put here and here. So once again, for those of you who want me to go over one more time, you take half that number, which is negative 7, and then you square it, and it becomes a 49, as long as you put it inside parentheses, which parentheses, they matter. Okay? All right, now, let's rewrite what we have here. We have x squared minus 14x plus a 49 equals, and over here we have 49 minus 33. So if we take 49 and we take away 33, that leaves us with 9 minus 3 is 6, and 4 minus 3 is 1, so it leaves us with 16. There we go. So far we have 49 plus a negative 33 is 16. Now this is the part where you have to know the concept of how to factor. It's very, very, very easy. All you're going to do is whatever this number is, you take half of it and you're finished. Well, what's half of that? Negative 7. So whatever the number is before you square it, that's what you're always going to put right here every single time. So this factors to x minus 7 squared, because negative 7 plus negative 7 is negative 14, and negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. And we get x minus 7 squared equals 16, which is our answer to this particular problem. So what am I going to do right? Oh, sorry, my board's a little wigging out here. There we go. I'm going to put a negative 7 right here. Write in a negative 7. And right here I'm going to put a 16. Right there, just like that. Let's see if it works. Oh, wrong one. Negative 7 and 16. Boom! Got it right. You can all see step-by-step solution. See what they do. Alright? Alright, they do the same thing right here. Alright, but they don't go over it in as much detail. But, you know, they give a little explanation. Next problem. Okay. Now it says rewrite the function by completing the square. This one's a little bit more difficult. Now I'm going to end up doing 4 problems. I'm going to finish this off and do 2 more problems. Now, when you guys are writing this, instead of f of x, I'm just going to put y equals instead of f of x because that means the same thing and it's less to write. But y equals, I'm going to put x squared plus 20x, and then I'm going to put plus, I'm going to put that empty box that I was talking about. Just remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. Just like that. And then that 40, I'm just going to put that 40 way out there just at the end. Okay? So once again, our a value is 1. That's good. All right, our a value is 1. That allows us to be able to complete the square. This is our b value right there. That's our b value. And we are going to find our c value. In order to put our c value here, we're going to put the c value right here as well. Let's remember, one more time, how do we find our c value? We take the b value, and we take half of it, and we square it. Just remember, you take the b value, you divide it by 2, and then you square it. Well, what is 20 divided by 2? That's 10. What is 10 squared? Well, 10 squared is equal to 100. So I'm going to put 100 right there. I'm going to put 100 right there. And then I'm going to rewrite my equation. I've got 100 plus y equals x squared plus 20x plus 100 plus 40. Now, some of you might be tempted to add like terms. Stop. Don't add them. Don't add those like terms because right now we've got to factor this guy. This guy factors to x plus, how do we factor in? Ooh, what's half that number? 10. X plus 10 squared. Because 10 plus 10 is 20. And 10 times 10 is 100. We're almost done right here. Alright, now to finish everything, all we have to do to both sides is simply take away 100 from this side and take away 100 from this side. And you're left with y equals parentheses x plus 10 close parentheses squared, and 40 minus 100 is negative 60 minus 60. And all I'm going to do is just change the y to f of x. That's all it is. So basically f of x equals, and what's our final answer? This right here. X plus 10 squared minus 60. As I almost dropped my board. So I'm going to put a 10 here. I'm going to put minus 60 here. 10 there. Minus 60. And hit check. Alright. Now, I'm going to go and pause the video real quick and start another problem. Alright, here we go. Here's the next problem. Alright, we are going to rewrite the equation by completing the square. So once again, I'm going to start it out. X squared plus 10x. I'm going to take away 24 from both sides. Just that's going to be my first step. Take away 24, take away 24. So that will leave me right here. I'm going to put plus an empty box right here. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Just a little bit bigger. That's not that'll work. Alright, equals. I'm going to put negative 24. Then I'm going to put plus another empty box, because whatever I do to one side, I have to do on the other side. So there we go. That's the first step. Subtract 24 from this side and from this side. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify my b value. And then this is going to be my c value. And this is also going to be my c value. Just remember, this will always be, c will always equal the b value divided by 2 squared. You take half this number and you square it. Well, what is half that number? Half that number is 5. And what is 10 divided by 2 squared, or also known as 5 squared? What's going to go right there? 25. What's going to go right here? 25. So now all we have to do now is just take that and factor him. Alright? So how do we factor x squared plus 10x plus 25? Very, very easy. It's always going to be x and whatever half that number is. Well, what's half of 10? 5. So we'll put plus 5 squared, because 5 plus 5 is 10, and 5 times 5 is 25, equals negative 24 plus 25 is 1. And that's my answer right there. So I'm going to put a 5 and a 1 and be done. 5 and a 1 and we're done. Alright, and last but not least, this is your fourth problem. How do we get from this form to this form? From standard form to also known as what's called vertex form. You're like, what? What's vertex form? Remember, vertex form, I'll rewrite it, was in this form, a parentheses x minus h squared plus k. That's vertex form. That's what this form is right here. And we use completing the square to change things from standard form to vertex form. That's the whole purpose of learning how to complete the square, is to go from standard to vertex. Alright, here we go. So we're going to change f of x to y just to make it a little bit easier. Y equals, we're going to put x squared minus 14x plus, I'm going to put an empty box right there. Whatever I do to one side, I got to do to the other side. So once I put one box on one side, which is basically just a place to put our c value, then I'm going to put plus 63. There we go, first step. Feel free to pause when you're doing this. Just pause the video to kind of catch up with me. Alright. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to complete the square. So this is the c value. I'm going to put the c value here and the c value here. Identify the b value. The b value is negative 14. How do we find our c value? You take negative 14, you divide it by 2, and you square it, which becomes negative 7 squared, which is 49. And you put the 49 there, and you put the 49 there. Once you do that, now you got to take this guy and you got to factor him. Well, how in the world are you going to factor this? Once again, whatever half that number is, makes it very easy. So here we go. What's half of negative 14? Well, that was negative 7. So all I'm going to do right down here is I'm going to put 49 plus y equals, in parentheses, I'm going to put x minus 7 squared, because negative 7 plus negative 7 is negative 14, and negative 7 times negative 7 is 49. I'm sure you're probably tired of me saying that. I'm just trying to make sure you understand the process. Plus 63. And the last step that I'm going to do to both sides is I'm going to take away 49 from this side, and I'm going to take a 49 from this side. So we'll do a little borrowing. Take that, put a 5, a little borrowing right there. 13 minus 9 is 4, and 5 minus 4 is 1. So here is our final answer in vertex form. I'm going to kind of show you what I mean by vertex form. We're going to use Desmos, show you how this works. We're going to call this f of x, because that's what this is in function notation. We're going to put x minus 7 squared, all right, plus 14. So I know where my vertex is in this form. Now, I didn't know where my vertex was right over here. When it was f of x equaled x squared minus 14x plus 63. If somebody were to say, hey, what's the vertex of this? I'm like, well, I don't know. I'd have to kind of figure it out. But if somebody said, hey, what's the vertex here? The vertex, I know immediately, because it's in vertex form, I know the vertex is going to be at a 7 and a 14. So let me go ahead and type these in so you can kind of see how this works. All right? So I'm going to go over here to Desmos, and I am going to type in f of x equals x squared minus 14x plus 63. All right, and then over here, instead of f of x, I'm just going to put g of x, because we can't do two f of x's. And I'll put parentheses x minus 7. I'll go zoom out so you guys can kind of see it. Kind of see there's the vertex. There's the 714. Okay, that's this one right here. Okay, there's the 714. Then I'll put squared, and I'll put plus 14. There we go. So now you can see that these parabolas right here, these are the exact same parabola. This is in standard form. This is in vertex form. And vertex form clearly lets me know what the vertex is, which is a 7 and a 14. How do you figure out the vertex? Like, what number would you plug in there to make it equal to 0? And then whatever number that is at the end. That's why it's a 7 and a 14. Okay, so that's called vertex 1. So what am I going to do here? I'm going to put a 7 right there. I'm going to put a 14 right there. And that these are equivalent. I just rewrited it using completing the square. I hope this video was helpful. Oh, look what I forgot to do. Forgot to put -7. Look at that. Don't do that. Make sure that you actually, when you do the problem, if it says -7 like we just did, make sure you type it in. Minus right there. That would be helpful. Oh well, at least you learned from my mistake. But the process was correct. I just didn't type in my answer correctly. And that's what happens when you don't type in your answer correctly. They don't count it correct. So, have a good day, and hope you learned from my little mistake there. Make sure, if it's a negative, make sure you put in a negative. Have a good day.